Yes. I also sent it by electronic. You know. Yes, yeah. I could have killed it. Sorry. Yeah, more trees.
Good evening. We call to order the Board of Trustees work session for September 18, 2023. We're going to go over the employee handbook. We hired a company to go through it, make some changes and stick a whole book in there and et cetera. So we're going to see if we can attempt to fix it. Instead of going paragraph by paragraph, page by page, does anybody have anything? I know some people submitted notes already.
Right.
And we'll go over those.
So, well, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
so we can knock out a couple of these. So
Yeah.
let me go with trustee Henry first, if you don't mind.
No, please.
So he brought up the vehicle usage, which in the additional information I handed out to you, that policy was changed, but it did not make it into the book. For any number of reasons. I think it had to do more with emails not getting to the right person. So that policy, which had been changed in March of 22, was then changed by the board to what I handed out to you, which included, so the village board of trustees has authorized the mayor, commissioner of police, police chief, fire chief, first assistant fire chief, second assistant fire chief, building inspector, village engineer, IT department coordinator, water department foreman, water department operator, highway department foreman, highway assistant foreman, full and unlimited, including personal use of village vehicles because they are 24/7.
Did we forget the EMS guy?
He wasn't on the list.
I know, no. I mean,
He should probably be it.
yes.
Probably 3 days to have it.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, or even be here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that will be considered as included in the draft now. And when we end up adopting this, you're adopting this as the policy. The piece that coincides with that in the book. We'll put that one out of the way. Second one, trustee Henry asked about the lens statement that's in there, and that's the, they had recommended that we use the lens program. We're not all doing that now, but with the adoption of this program, we would start doing it. And that actually doesn't.
EMS currently.
Yeah, and that, basically what the lens program, real quick, is we register each of our drivers. In our case, it would, I don't know if it would just be CDL drivers or it would be everybody. It would probably have to be everybody that has at least a village vehicle like on that list. And then if they get a ticket or something, we get a notification. They get into an accident, we get a notification.
Even if they take a driver improvement class, I get points of everything.
Knock on wood, we've never had a problem with somebody who actually got something that didn't tell us, but you never know when that's gonna happen. So
The biggest thing I see with the fire department is expired licenses. And I contact the people, they're not even aware of it. They take care of it right away.
and,
What about when they go in the class of the license?
yeah, any change.
Any change.
Who's the person in charge of for the village? Who
For
handles it?
The fire department's the only one currently doing it now. So we will do it here. I would probably ask Steve to help us, and we would probably do it through the police department. Where they would get, they would do the registrations and they would get the information.
They only want one point of contact.
Yes.
I'm the contact for fire and EMS.
And you
Yeah,
get
it's for-
reports every single day, right?
Excuse me?
You get reports every single day.
No, only when there's a change.
Yeah, that's a change.
but it's current. In other words, if someone has an accident, I get notified. If someone gets a ticket, I get notified. If someone's license is expiring, I get notified. But in the absence of that, I don't, there aren't any notifications.
I asked that because, when I work, we get reports every single day about drivers whose license are suspended, revoked, denied, or.
Well, you deal with a lot more people than we are.
And it's also, doesn't cost us anything.
Right.
Um, And one of the items that trustee Henry pointed out is, section 508. And I think the last week you all heard that. And so what 508 is covering is our employees who are in the volunteer firemen, women, and or emergency responders. And what this statement is covering is somebody goes to a call, one of our water laborers goes to a call, that they don't lose time, meaning credit time with any sort of sick time, vacation time, sick time, etc. That's okay to do that as long as they're available to work as available and to the supervisor allows it. So that's making clear that you don't use any legal crews to do that. It also makes it clear that you don't get any extra time or any extra pay for that. It also makes clear that you're to return from there to work if work is going on still, or return from there to whatever if your shift is already over. It also could it could require the employee to provide documentation that they were actually at the call if it was so needed. Either I wanted it or the department head wanted.
Emergency responder when it's doing EMS.
Yes. Yes.
That limited to volunteers in Elmsburg, or could you be a volunteer somewhere else?
Means also. No. That's what it means. Says the village.
How would that work with mutual aid members that are employed by the village?
To their place.
No, so like we have
No,
somebody here,
here, that's fine.
it applies here,
Yeah, because they're mutual aid to us.
right?
Not to
Correct,
their place.
right.
Example, when Nick was here. If Nick went to Mohegan, he didn't get paid or he had to use time.
Right.
They could go to a call here, it didn't cost them anything. So. Everybody understand that? And that was all trustee Henry had. Bottom of my mind.
105.
Oh, 105. You get my email? That responded to it? Let me show you real quick. Oh, no, I didn't see this. I thought it said it like that. Oh. I'm not that fast. So that's trustee Henry's. The other one I got was from trustee Coffee. And actually he's the one who's gonna cost us a little time.
Well,
But yeah, I didn't find.
So he asked about, section 410, telephone, cell phone usage. And after looking what, he really only pointed to two things. He asked village only or personals included, meaning the cell phone. Do these rules apply to both? And then also the, in different places where it talks about personal use, like example, in the middle, it says use of cell phone for personal text messaging during work hours is prohibited, but doesn't say the cell phone itself. So this one to me, because this is a always changing field or whatever you want to say at this point. I think needs a little more discussion as well as review. And my first step is I'm going to suggest that we not discuss this now because we're coming back to this. That I go over this again with the people who wrote the book as well as our attorneys. Because after I read this a second time, it just doesn't seem as modern to me as it should be.
No. I'm just gonna say.
I mean, like the old days of like the old book had stuff about just regular telephones that are like so outdated, it was, unbelievable. But even this, I think, written whether it was a year ago, to me is outdated except for in the first part. I mean, in the guidelines. I think that probably needs to be a little bit more generic. So I would suggest that let me come back to you with that one after further look by them. So I'm gonna put 410 guidelines. Then the other one, the trustee Coffee asked me about. The data sheets and section 900. Data safety sheets, whether they're the same as the MSDS, and they are. It's basically the same thing, they're just calling it something.
Wasn't sure if it changed those.
Yes. Okay. That put 3 out of the way quick. Another question I was asked, this was by an employee, that had to do with section 308. Under code of ethics, under the $25 threshold value. So I looked that up in general municipal law, which governs that section for us. Allows for that to be increased in these times to $75.
In which time?
Today. Actually, it goes back, that was changed many years ago. We just, we didn't follow suit. So that's what allows for municipalities on your state your home. This law is $75. And my recommendation is that you change it to 75.
I mean, I guess because when I form a marriage, somebody you can't charge more than $75. Not that I don't charge anything.
Right.
So then that's why it's probably the same number.
Where is that number?
It's on page 309,
Oh, I got, yeah.
and it's under gifts.
Yes, right. That would include police, would it? But I remember Patrick Murphy, remember him, the police commissioner? We cut coffee.
Yeah, it should. New York City's right now is 50. Because I looked that up.
In other words, it's okay to get a free cup of coffee?
Yes.
It's his
That's,
feeling of the one.
no, that's Starbucks for $75.
But that was a long time ago, obviously.
Basically what this doesn't determine whether it's okay or not. This determines the threshold to report it.
Oh, okay.
That's a very legalized answer. Okay, we're going to 75. Good. We're on a roll. Okay, let's go to the first thing. Oh. Let's go. You want to do hers, Larry? I know that.
Yeah, they're all included.
311.
That's the page.
Location of files. So the personnel records, location of files. We need to change this a little bit. We actually have 3 sets of what we consider personnel files. We have the payroll files, and those are kept within the payroll and or treasurer's office. Civil service and general personnel are kept in my office by me. And then medical, insurance, comp, dental, vision, etc., is kept with the village clerk. So we'll change that to reflect that. 402. So scheduling the meal breaks. So in here it has 12:30 to 1:30, but that's our summer hours. That's our regular hours. It doesn't account for our summer hours. It also doesn't account for whether there's a 20-minute break here or there, whatever. So one of my suggestions, like the rest breaks, one of my suggestions is that we kind of take that out, that they're getting those. But on an annual basis, we establish what that is.
Reorganization.
Correct, by resolution. So a couple things. One, it's probably not going to change much. But 2, when it does change, we don't have to change the book. And there's a couple other recommendations I'm going to make similar to that in the going down the road. So, for example, this year it would have been the mail breaks for regular hours or what it says there. Summer hours is 12:30 to 1. And I would have just been on a resolution that was done just like the banking resolutions or the mileage resolutions, I think. So I'm recommending that.
Administrator. The one prior to that, since the language is going to be new, you consider the digital filing of those files and where they're going to be located and things like that versus just analog. I think you would refer to physical access to those files versus if we go digital, then they're going to be accessible via computer.
But they would be in those offices on the computer.
No, they will be on a digital location in which you have access from a computer.
But I consider my personnel files in my office that are contain documents that go into regular folders too.
Correct,
Those are in the village administrator's office.
correct,
Nobody else has access to them
correct.
in the computer.
But it's not that computer, it's any computer that you have access to.
Correct,
Okay,
but only me.
correct.
Right.
Definitely, but I'm
Same
saying,
thing with the personnel, same thing with the other files. Only the treasurer or personnel's computer system, whatever, has access to that. Same thing with the medical, only the clerks has access to that.
Yes,
So it's the same thing, but it's on the computer.
but do you want to make mention of that on the handbook? Versus the way it sounds now is that you have physical assets. And then someone walks into your desk and get access to those files.
Because right now, everything is in those files.
Correct, definitely, but I'm talking,
But I think he's also looking
Future.
to add, right? So we're talking about today, we have physical files and planning for tomorrow, if we ever get down to the world where paper
I
is,
would-
to address both
I would
issues.
assume.
it's saying, it's an opportunity. You may want to add it there, that is strictly accessed only by those individuals appointed by the village, for example. Because it may be that today is the administrator versus 10 years from now, maybe.
So is it as simple as saying and electronically?
Lawyers, you know better.
I think so.
Okay.
Electronically with proper protocol, proper access.
Upload that by the personnel rules.
That's it, thank you.
So on the meal break. Agree with that? Do you want to not do that type of thing? Other one, 402, you don't have to turn there, it just says town where it should say village. 404. Time records. Is village treasurer. Or payroll. Fix that. $406. Now, the mayor had asked me if we required breathalyzer from everyone in an accident.
Right.
Right, that's a driver. So it's driver,
I was saying, that's why I.
yeah, 407. Where it says mayor. It should say mayor or administrator, not board. Because that's on a day-to-day basis. Uh, 410. It's the cell phone thing, we'll come back to that, that's gonna be included in there. Basically what he brought up was if somebody's using their personal cell phone, that's considered one of the village use phones that they get reimbursed for, and it gets broken on duty, do we reimburse them for that? And the answer is yes.
We wanted to be clear in here, because it says, don't work hours, the personal cell phone, it doesn't. Not your personal, but if it is your personal cell phone and you're being reimbursed for it, that's, which would really be your village phone, you should get reimbursed for it. Like the personal cell phones that are broken, damaged, or lost, or will not be replaced by the village, but the personal cell phone is a reimbursed by the village, it technically is a village phone, if you do break it, don't work hours, you should be reimbursed. If you're using your personal phone, and you're breaking it all the time, you use it, you should be reimbursed.
418. Under standards. You want to explain that?
Yeah, because it says, and an employee must maintain a personal appearance in the internet that reflects a good image to the public and appropriate to his or her position. Acceptable personal appearance, grooming, and maintenance of hygiene standards are ongoing requirement of village. Employees should not wear suggestive attire. I just made a note, some people shouldn't wear, I'm not talking about the guys that work in the whole stuff, but our office staff, so that shouldn't wear T-shirts that say things on them or characters on them, something that when they're at the front window, they should be dressed in a nice shirt or, something that shouldn't be, like a walk with Disney World shirt or something like that.
So it should be business casual.
Yes.
why we had their business casual is just.
Yeah.
Something like that. $602.
Right now, the distribution of paycheck is done by the village clerk. It shouldn't say village treasurer's office, it should be, we'll keep it at the clerk, it should be a clerk or the person doing that, it should be the treasurer. What we do is the payroll person gives it to the village clerk, she puts it in the same, and she distributes it. So the treasurer never had anything to do with it, do it now, so we should keep it the same.
Same thing with authorized check release, same principle.
Yeah.
705.
Yeah, it says chief of police, but it should be commissioner. Full-time employee be credited with 4 days of leave by law, chief of police.
Should say both.
Right.
Right.
But we, I mean, yeah, commissioner, that was probably, he took it off the old book when we didn't have it.
Right. So that should say both commissioner and chief.
Yeah, I actually read it.
712.
Like that was, wrong plans. There's two plans that we have.
You would ask whether part-timers had that. So this one, they don't. The section 125 plan is the, like the flexible spending, childcare, and we don't offer that to the
We have the other one. We can-
part-time. And then in the policy statement, there's a couple of towns that should be village.
That are- That's it. That would be the four of them use.
Okay, before I start on these ones that you can't read. So the ones I handed out tonight with comments on, and these are from our labor council. The one thing I didn't do, they have a bunch of just wording changes, such as changing some wills to shalls, mays to shalls, da 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 da. I wasn't printing the whole thing out to show you that. So those will be just automatically accepted, any of those word changes by labor council. And then I've got involved more to the substantial ones. And just, I mean, I don't feel, all of these should be done, but I don't feel I should make that decision unilaterally, you should be aware of it. So if you want to start with 306 first. And then you see the antidote in blue. And she's correct. Then we go to the next page, 305. This is a combination of a couple of things. Some of this is being deleted because it's covered in a different section, and or it doesn't apply to certain employees as it's making it look like it does here. And it also is duplicating another section of 307. But at the same time, the union stuff, for example, the police are governed by 5711Q, which we don't even cover in here because it refers to the union contract. CSEA is a little different with the section 75, where they get by their contract, section 75 after 1 year. Where a regular employee, not covered under theirs, like, they get it after 5 years. Section 75. So that's a great benefit that the CSEA has for that. So that straightens this out a little bit in terms of lawyer language. 306. You can see her comment there.
There you go. On the page that's copied, it's missing 3 on the bottom on the book, so I don't know if it just didn't come out or. In other words, the last one here says
Which page? You know?
300-6 page. So on the bottom it says, the last one on the printed sheet says, personal activity during paid work. Sorry, personal activity during paid work time without the express permission of department head. So if you look in a book, there's 3 more on there though. So they didn't come out, I don't know if they just didn't come out on the copy or.
Yeah, probably.
Right, you see a book?
But yeah, there was nothing past this floor.
Yeah, just making sure they didn't.
As you know, as you can see, it makes it smaller. That has to do with the comment box and all that. Lawyer stuff. 309. Why did they give you 309? The purple. Those are comments that the word, so the wording's got to be changed. And then we're back to the 402, which is the meal thing again, and breaks. And she makes recommendations there, saying that we want to be locked into this, and then also deleting some words, and that we're all going to take care of with the resolution. So great minds think alike. 416. Making various recommendations, which I agree with. The editors of this book are not going to be happy when Stu and I get done with them. So that puts that one to rest. Then the next one would be for 714 starts with workers' comp. I mean 714. And that's accurate. That's the practice now. It's the law. It's 713. Same thing. This is really, it's decided by the state and it changes from time to time. So to be as specific as it is in there doesn't make any sense. So what you do is you get to this part and then you refer to what the state law at the time is. Get rid of the disability payment section. The comment with the how do we do this now? It's covered. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be changed. 706. Out of order, my bad. So this is the other one where we're gonna recommend that we do resolution on an annual basis. So right now, PBA contract covers what they do, and theirs is as confusing as what's written here, if not more. CSCA, the same things covered by their contract. This is what applies to, we're talking about the premium payments. This is what applies to our people now. Most of them, if you see it, they've been like timed out, like the 2005, 2008. Doesn't really exist. I don't think there's anybody here that applies to. That's already paying, whatever. Then you have the after 2008. That's where we are today. The suggestion is that we also do that annually by resolution. Because that could change. And possibly make it, it's a straight dollar amount instead of 1% or 2%, whatever. So my recommendation is that we change that to be set by the board on an annual basis by resolution. And in all likelihood, we would continue to, these pretty much mirror what the union contract said. The pre-tax insurance premiums, that doesn't apply here. It is for us. I think that covers everything I have. Let me just make sure I'm not missing a page here. No, I had a couple other items. Vacation, 702. Under new employees. Currently it reads newly hired full-time employees will be credited with 10 days of vacation leave after 1 year of continuous service. Such employees eligible to take 5 of those 10 days after 7 months of employment. I've been doing this a long time. That's the most confusing thing I've ever seen. And I said it 20 years ago when I came here. It makes no sense, but we've never really talked about it. It causes problems in calculation. It's very confusing to people when they first come here. I mean, I'm sure Brian, because it's very similar to what we do with the union guys too. My suggestion is that it be 10 days after 6 months.
We do want to get into a year then.
So let's say you're hired on, or 5 days after 6 months, one of them. Because the way it works now is if we do everything June 1st here, get the PD does certain things June 1st, certain things January 1st. The non-union do everything June 1st. So if I'm hired on, May 1st is not a good example. If I'm hired on July 1st, August, September, October, November, December, January 1st, I get my 5 days or 10 days, whatever. I roll around to June 1st. By the way this reads, I'm not getting anything. I'm not getting anything until July 1st. See what I'm saying? So we either need to change First of all, I think we need to change, forget the 2 weeks and 7 month thing to something simpler. But then also change the vacation being on your anniversary date, if you're gonna stay with the 1 year thing. That's great after 1 year, then following that, that gets complicated to keep track of. So I'm open to suggestions.
Well, the concept of it was, you don't get anything until your first year. We backed it off and say, how can we work a whole year without any time off? So after 7 months, we give you a week, and when you get to your first year, you only get another week.
Correct.
So why don't you do, after 6 months, you get a week, and you get to your first year, to your second year, you get 1 week. It would be the same thing.
But on your anniversary date or on June 1st,
Well, then you have to go anniversary day for the rest of your career.
which is very difficult for us to keep track of. Well, it is and it is. You know,
Yeah,
it's,
because everybody would have a different thing instead of just everybody's on the same day.
Right.
Yeah.
Why don't we just accumulate the hours by month? So let's say that it's 10 vacation at 10 vacation days, for the first year, just literally having annually accumulate by X amount of days per month. So that would be 0.83 days per month that we would accumulate throughout that year, and then based off that. So it starts the minute that they start, but the time will move as they. So we won't end up giving vacation time to someone that actually accumulates that amount of time. If we're open.
let me get some square with these guys first.
Go back.
We're January.
Right.
January.
But let me ask you a question, and. So guy starts in November. And November comes around, he gets that first year, what happens in January? Do you get 2 more weeks?
Well, so nothing really happens until the 5th year, when he gets his 3rd week.
No. So,
That's when it goes by the anniversary date.
Yeah.
So if he started in November, if he completes his 5th year in November, he gets that 3rd week and has until November to January to use.
correct, that's not what I'm asking, what I'm saying is, Joe started on December 1st. The next December 1st, he has 1 year. Okay, so that's his anniversary date. He gets 2 weeks according to this.
Yeah.
What happens on January 1st?
It renews
He gets another 2 weeks.
yeah, but he has that year to use that anyway.
So how about this one?
So it's every year he gets 2 weeks until the 5th year.
How about if we do it something like sick days? I'm reading the paragraph 2 above it. It says, I'm not going to read the whole paragraph. 3/4 away into the allowance part, it says vacation leave is based on the average number of hours an employee is normally scheduled to work. Each week, an employee may take a vacation leave only after it's been credited. So why don't you do from start date to June 1st, almost like a sick day? You get a vacation day every month or something. So if you have to, because it's only 12 in a year anyway, so you're not going to work a full year till June anyway. So, or, you know what I'm saying? We're a maximum of 10 or something like that. So this way, if you start January, you'll get 5. 1 a month. Because that's an easy calculation. Whenever you start the years, every month you get 1 vacation day. And then when you reach June, you get 2 weeks. And you go 2 weeks until your time. Until you get to the 5th year when you get 5 or 15 days. Kind of like a sick day. Because it would almost be the same if somebody started 7 months prior. Right, okay, they get in 5 days, which is almost 1 a month.
So, I mean, the only thing about that is we have rules in the contract that you can't use them as single days. So
This is
you're getting
gonna
more-
change, this has nothing to do with the contract.
No. But
This
you can-
doesn't apply to.
for example, let's just say,
Yeah, but
what's
it's
the month
gonna
going
be-
backwards? If you start, hold on, right? If you go, what's the month going backwards? Is that October? They get 7 months to do.
Yeah.
Right. Let's say you start October 1st, right? If you start October 1st, after 7 months, you can get 1 week vacation, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Then when you get to June, you can get that 2nd week, right? That's what it says. Well, until then you get
Well, till you get to the year.
to the year.
Yeah,
So,
that's why the
right,
start
but
date.
if you get 1 a month, it would be the same thing. you're getting 5 days. One a month instead of 5 after 5 months. I mean, it's the same calculation, you get 7, so if you did it every month, you actually get 2 ahead of the time. So then we could either change it as during that period, you can use them daily, or you save them up and you can get
Yeah.
after your 5th month or 7th month, then you get a whole week. Or take the weekend time, whatever everybody calculations is easier, right?
I got another idea, coming off of your 1 per month. So. No matter when you start, you get 1 per month. Which is actually gonna end up giving people 2 more a year than we're giving them now. And
You
then,
could cap it at 10,
well, yeah,
right?
or let's say with the 1 a month. So no matter where you start, you're getting 1 a month. And then after the year. So you're just staying at 1 a month. Forget after a year, doesn't matter. But then to get to where we do the bump ups, so where it gets to start to be 15 or whatever. So after 5 years, that next June, you're still getting 1 a month, and then next June, you're gonna get 3 more. After another 5 years. Come that June 1st, boom, you're gonna get whatever the increase is, because we go 10 days, 15 days, 20 days right now. You see what I'm saying?
Mike, what's the policy with personal time when you first get hired?
You get them when you start.
Immediately, you can use them. You have them. I mean, that's 4 days. And if you can use those immediately.
And you get
got
a sick
4
day
days.
every month too.
No, after completion of 1 year.
1 year you get.
So again,
I mean, we're changing that, so that way the employee had time if needed, you give them those days. And then keep vacation as is.
but mind you, we don't have to change this. It's been working fine for 30 years. It's just it has to be kept track of. It's kind of weird. I do a very good job of keeping track of it.
Yeah, but this is, we have a payroll company, right? That keeps track of people's time.
We don't have that set up yet. We're in the process of getting that done.
Well, they can also track, if you tell them what a person.
Yeah, whatever we tell them, they'll do.
I know, then if you can start just accruing it by name.
Correct. And
You know, they get like,
Is what I'm saying.
that's how I got it. Like,
If
hey,
they-
for this 1 year.
Yeah, if they have 10 vacation days in a calendar year. If they divide those amount of days by each paid period, they're going to accumulate the right amount of hours per pay period.
Right.
So at the end of the day, just let it start right away, but let it start proportionate to the amount of vacation days that they're.
Right, and you can see that right on their payroll printout.
Correct.
And they see, you see how much time.
And it becomes helpful because there are instances where you may take half the day here, half the day, it all ends up working because it's by hour and it's at the bottom.
Well, why don't I look at further options of this and come back, since we gotta come back anyway. So I can explore those types of things.
I mean, if you, paychecks for you, or.
We use lots.
They probably could take, it's in their software, it's just one more column they add and then accrues and that's how much course it's accrued. And then after 5 years, they're accruing 3 weeks worth of time. And that's, it starts accruing in that.
Right.
Mike, why change it if it's been working for the last 30 years with that relationship?
Well, because then when they have to reconcile all the time.
Yeah, it's.
This way,
They get sick time. One year, they also get personal time.
They earn sick time one day a month,
What about personal time?
personal time for a year.
I mean, you can tell the velocity, you probably will be able to track.
Right, I wanna-
each one of them.
Right, I wanna
As
ask
long as
them.
they know what the amount is. And that's the way to do it, and then it's easier for you to track. See.
The other one I wanted to bring up with this one, additionally, is, we have the one on terms of annual vacation leave and the bump ups. So we have 1 year, after 1 year is 10, After 5 years, it's 15. After 10 years, it's 20. The two unions have no step. And I think we should too. It should be 20 or it should be 25.
20 years will be.
25, not 20. Point out, so I got, from the new clerk that we're hiring. She provided me with a recruitment thing for the unified court system. So the state actually hires their own people for various courts. So it's very important. The city courts are all part of the state thing. They start at, the day you start at 14 days vacation. And they go, no, I'm sorry, 20 days vacation. Wow. The day they start, and then their next level, which is in like 2 years, goes to 27. Wow. I was like, glad you showed me that. So that's the state employees. They're starting at 20 days after 1 year. That's a lot.
Yeah, do they separate? There's a new thing now, lumping sick time, personal time, vacation time.
Didn't say
It's
nothing
just
about-
paid time.
No, it was vacation time. It was vacation.
I vote for that.
Of course. My other one I already covered. And my other one we also wanted to cover. The medical and the breaks. Oh, yeah. The elephant in the room. Where is that? 700.
Page of it. $600. Page 600.
Oh, I didn't know off the top of your head.
What's that?
Count on. 600, right?
Yeah.
602, page 601. That's the most confusing thing in the world.
Yes.
They could just have like different page numbers. And you know why it's like that? Because these come, they come in different files and sections. They come by each section, its own file. So it won't number the numbers of pages by the section. Don't ask me how I know that, but I do. So overtime compensation. This has been the elephant in the room for a long time. So our current policy is, now mind you, this is non-union people. Current policy is there's no such thing as overtime. It's only comp time. For years, that comp time was only given out at 1 hour per, when it should be 1.5. We fixed that recently. But the policy actually reads, there's no such thing as comp time, it's only overtime. That's been the policy. So that policy has been in place and misconstrued for 457 years. So this now is the way this fixes it. This says who gets it, who's eligible for it, who's not eligible. So for years, that was also misinterpreted. This makes it very clear now. Exempt employees are basically me, you, and the police commissioner. Basically, that's the general. Everybody else is non-exempt. So non-exempt employees are eligible for overtime comp time. This new policy provides for the person to choose. Do they want to get paid or do they want to get comp? There's 6 reasons not to do that and another half reasons to do it. Another 6, another half dozen to do it. One of the issues is what do we do with the comp time that's on the books? And there's really not a lot, to be honest with you.
Right, but nobody should lose that.
Correct. So you shouldn't lose that if there's going to be a limit. And my suggestion is that we would buy out a substantial amount of some of that time for people. The other issue with the comp time is, and that one of the things that's not clear here yet, but we're going to make clear. If you choose comp time, it stays comp time. Never becomes cash out time. Because that provides the issue of, I earned that comp time today, I want to get paid out for it 15 years from now.
So if somebody works time during the pay period, when they submit the payroll, they gotta put a comp time or over.
Correct. Which is what PD does now. It's
You
what,
make a selection each time.
yes, CSCA does that.
You can switch it.
No, what
No,
I'm saying,
in other words, if 1 week you want to get paid, 1 week. you don't.
Yes. yes. Much cleaner process, really is.
But yeah, I mean, but I do think that anybody that has comp time on the books now should be able to give what they get paid. It's not fair that they expected it or worked it and didn't get compensated for it. So whatever it is, we can complain the bank down or something and start over or somehow, but they shouldn't lose it. And that's not fair.
Is there a limit on the amount that can be accumulated?
In this policy, the way it's written now, no. Oh, yes. 28 hours. In the way this is written.
I think unfortunately, the department heads, I think should have a different number. Because they work more comp time than.
I agree.
You know, if you're gonna change it, I mean, then the unions have, what were the unions?
They're down to 24 hours now. Both of them.
25?
24.
Yeah, 24 plus then you have 4 hours of, like the medical leaves go to the doctor, so it's 28.
Yeah, in other words, if you take it. Example, he has 8 employees working, and 8 guys only work 1 minute at a time, but you're gonna work the whole time. So it's not fair to you to miss out on time that if it was a cap on it, you know, yours should be higher. I mean, all you guys, it's usually an example, it's snow, but you know, Joe and the board breaks and Steve during emergencies and stuff, you know, I think those numbers should be higher. No disrespect to the staff, but you know, because they're working more, they're coming to meetings too. You're here for meetings and you're going in for other stuff. And, you know, the rest of the guys aren't, you know, the department head should have a higher number. It's like the time now, if you were to count, if we stay late for a meeting, you get 4 hours, and that's not really fair. That you get stuck, you know, you should be able to get it higher than everybody else's.
And I mean, we go through the room. One guy wants comp time, the other guy wants the money. There's no uniform. No uniform. And the comp time becomes a liability. It's not something that we, as a liability that we ever track. I mean, it doesn't show up it's not something that shows up in Gatsby, it's not something that shows up in audits. It just doesn't, it's kind of out there. And that's a liability. You know, the only one that I would flex on is whether you can cash it out down the road. I forget what the PBA, does that allow you to cash out after the fact?
After the fact, yeah, they can have a bank, they can have a bank at 24 hours, yeah, no, they won't.
Right, yes. But yours?
I mean, I suggested something many years ago, even for sick time, when the sick time was 90 days. Or 80 days rather, years ago. I had suggested that it's unlimited sick time. But if you computed that the year you got it. So, you know, 1990, it was worth $50 a day, 1991, it was $60 a day, 1992 was $70 a day. Instead of only getting paid for 80, you're getting paid for all your time or whatever was earned at the time. So if somebody has 200 or 300 days, then they're gonna lose all of that. But if it was paid at the day they earned it, they're getting it. Instead of, you know, or you can keep it at the 160 and get paid for whatever the rate is today, whichever you want to do, but a lot of people would want to bank more than that. But they don't because they're gonna lose it. I mean, I had said that many years ago. I mean, it's an idea of a thought to do with that sometime too. You know, if we can get to a certain number, but, you know, definitely they should be a little bit more and be able to cash in what they have now somehow.
I think you gotta understand the extent of what we're talking about. In this building, you're talking very little. Very, very little. And mostly in this building, I believe, and only you can speak for yourself, most of these people are probably gonna stay with Compton. I don't know. The two foremen, they have the opportunity to get a whole lot more than everybody else. Justifiably so, and they're working for that. So that's where I think it needs to be very, very flexible. Very flexible.
Yeah, I mean, you can choose either one you want, there's no wrong with that, it's a personal position. You guys want to count on everyone taking care? I mean, there's no better option than that.
So Mike, what happens when you hit the threshold of comp time?
You would have to start cashing
You
it.
gotta cash it out.
You gotta cash it out.
Right, but I think it should be higher than the number that's there.
I think our answers kind of line within it, right? Because it says once you reach 20 compensatory time credits, you have to use that time within that period in which it was earned, right? So there's like a time that you can't just bank it, but you use it, you gotta use it right away. When you choose the money over the time, you're gonna get that payment in your next paycheck. I think the answer here is there has to be a time period in which that compensatory time is used, right? So whether it's within 30 days of the key period in which the compensatory time is given, it has to be utilized. That would kind of balance out the output of both of those. So, yeah.
See if I'm right. If I'm not mistaken, like the TV, if they work overtime, they have 2 pay periods to get it in. They don't make the first one, the second one, is that what you mean, something like that?
So let's say whatever pay period is that they got it in. Right, so let's say whatever pay period they got it in. If it was
Yeah, that's
compensatory time, you would have 30 days from that time period to use that compensatory time, yeah. So there's not that worry necessarily of a disparity between the two or necessarily having to keep track of it through this long period of time. They have 30 days to use it, or they use it.
Everybody, let's read start under compensation time. And instead of reading the whole thing, start at an employee may accumulate. And we just answered our whole question right here, the way this is written. Basically what you just said.
Just like our answers, it's there.
So what this says is if you reach, for those that don't have it in front of them, if you reach the 28 hours that is here, in that pay period, you then have to take cash.
Right, my question, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
If you further on, how do you read this sentence? The employee must use all compensatory leave credits within the calendar year.
Right,
Is that saying that whatever they have at the end of the year, they gotta cash it in?
correct. And at that current rate.
Calendar year, fiscal year.
Says calendar year.
It's gonna be fiscal year.
Right, fiscal year. That's our calendar. Hmm.
So like what happens if you're taking comp time, right, and you hit the maximum? And then the next is something happens and it's another 4 hours. You're not switching, you're just gonna get that 4 hours in monetary
Overtime.
and overtime.
Or honestly, I'd to put it into the calendar, like if you're that close to when that next year will be. You don't have to, you can wait a period to put that in, if I'm making sense, so that you don't necessarily go to.
The way we operate up here, that's not. good.
What's your, since you're here and you guys do the comp time, what's your thoughts of having to cash in the comp time at the end of the year?
So, I mean, I don't think,
Honestly,
yeah, I don't think. I mean, I don't like it.
Okay.
For the guys, I don't think that, because they don't build up enough. So, you know, that's 3 days they get, so.
No, no, we're not talking about your guys.
It's just us.
Some guys, yeah. I can't get that.
Maybe instead of this, you know, you could put a cap on what you can carry over. Like. You
But
could
it's
carry-
gonna affect you, Brian, because you want the comp time.
I just prefer comp time. I don't
So,
want.
but at the end of the year, whatever you have is gonna get cashed out under this rule.
you gotta
Like,
use-
maybe Tony's right, maybe we let them carry it.
Or
You also can carry.
Yeah, but I like the comp time
We're
because
making
I'm
it-
constantly, like, I don't let it. I take it because I need, like, you know, my situation right now with 3 young kids is a lot of times, like, you know, so I don't let it accumulate where I have, you know, crazy amount. It builds up and then I'll use a couple days, it builds up, use a couple days, you know, I'm kind of always floating around the thing.
What would be so wrong about if we set a number, like right now, and the rest of the gang is 28 hours, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna make an arbitrary number just for conversation. Yours is 100 hours. Okay, you can accumulate 100 hours of comp. But let it roll over, but if you reach 100, you gotta cash it in. Right?
Beyond 100,
Huh?
beyond 100.
Yes, I'm making up a number.
Right,
for
right, no,
conversation.
but beyond 100, that's cash.
You have to
That's
cash
it.
it. So you can't, like there, say you have to cash into 28, but make yours 100, so you still have 100 hours of comp time. But when you reach over that, you
Yeah,
just
I just can't get 101 out.
But what happens at the end of the year?
You roll it over.
You can roll it.
I said, and that's mine. I mean, I got 4 other colleagues.
What I would add to that is,
I think you should.
here's what I would
I
add,
think you should roll it over.
if you roll it over, that can never be cashed out, that's gotta be used.
Yes.
That's comp time.
Once you make that determination not to cash it out,
But I gotta be honest,
But you said we could cash it out anyway.
Yeah, I have no
It's
intention.
either gotta be comp time or
Cash,
overtime,
right.
right?
no,
Yeah, he's just said that
Yeah,
before.
you said that before.
what?
When you submit your timesheet, you have to specify if there's gonna be overtime or comp time.
Right,
Once it's comp time, it can never get cashed out.
no, according to this, it can at the end of the year,
But now you're saying, yeah, if it's over.
but if you carry it, no,
Okay.
it says the end of the year, everything gets cashed out. So what I'm saying is, if we allow for you to carry it over, it always stays comp time, you can never cash that out.
That makes sense.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's fine for me. Yeah.
Bottom line is that you don't lose it. You just have to, you're not gonna be cash.
I mean, the idea of the comp time is, we'd rather pay you than not have you here, you know, because we need you, but, now that you can have both, it's okay. It's more better. Sorry. So if you, they have to keep it as comp. So if arbitrary number again, if we went to 100 hours. And you couldn't cash it in, then you, before you retire sometime, you'd have to take 100 hours off.
which is 13 days.
Right.
No.
Right.
Of 8.
It's like,
Yeah.
you know, you still get
Right.
paid.
It's not like you have, you know, doubting that was where it is.
It's not very compromise.
Yeah.
It's not really a good compromise.
Let's put that on a hold too, and let these guys think about it and come back to your thoughts, think about that concept. If we come up with a number. So whatever time you have on the books now, you can keep. And then whatever time we set that number at, you can roll it over, keep it as comp time forever and use it before you retire, but over you have to cash in, right?
I would also, the other thing I think we should do is let them cash out time now
Yes,
to a certain amount.
yeah, if they want, sure. Right.
Because we might as well get it off the books and we can get it off the books.
Yeah, if they want to cash it in or keep it and carry it later, yes.
That way Dan can cash out and get a nice little check.
So why don't you guys think about that, and we'll, just we're holding the whole thing in, that's just an idea of what you think is gonna work, and then let us know. And
I'll come
also-
up with some suggestions.
Yeah.
Talk to these guys a little more.
Right, and then give us a number, what you think the number should be. I make that arbitrary 100, but should it be 100? I mean, it could be, but think of something that you know what you have, you know what you earn every year, you know what you bank every year, what would the number realistically be?
I'll also see if there's any sort of recreating the wheel, what else I can find out there that other people know.
Mike? It says under non-exempt for work over 40 hours in a given work week.
Say that again?
Under non-exempt employees, I guess overtime and comp time is after 40 hours. We're 35 hours.
That's federal law.
So we only work 35.
I know. That's another change. It's gonna happen. What Mike just brought up, one of the other changes, and I'm gonna double check this with the attorneys, but I was told, so in here it says after 40 hours. That even though we work a 35-hour work week, it's still after 40 hours. Which I've had some arguments back and forth because technically, under the regular standard, they're not getting paid for 5 hours of work in reality. But supposedly something to do with the Federal Labor Standards Act. It's all based on 40 hours, no matter what you work. So if you don't reach the 40-hour threshold, there is no overtime, there is no comp time. So I gotta come back with an answer to that one too.
It says right in the book,
See, that doesn't affect Brian and Joe because they work 40-hour weeks.
and Steve.
And Steve, everybody else works 35. So that's another one I gotta get back to. Technically, we do work a 40-hour work week, but we don't get paid for lunch. That's basically the way it's comes prefaced out. So let me ask for clarification on that. That's all I have. Unless I read through it again.
Trustee, I can do
To continue with the 100-hour cap time, they can, I understand that. So they can carry this over year after year after year. Let's say 100 hours per year. That comes to about 12 and a half days. So they're willing to transfer or to carry those 12.5 days year after year after year, they retire. They'll get paid for a lump sum for that time.
No, we're saying whatever gets carried over can't be paid out. Carry over.
So
has to be used.
time.
Right. The only way I would say there would ever be a scenario that somebody got that money paid out is if they were deceased and their estate would get paid out that way.
So the only choice is to take time.
You're making the choice not to cash it out, to roll it over. So that's where your first choice is. I'm sure at some point down the road, long after we're all gone, somebody's gonna deal with it.
which is fine.
Somebody gone from here, somebody's gonna deal with well, how about an exception? But we're not gonna deal with that.
Mike, can I go back to section 300-3? 300-3. Yeah. Evaluations. Just what I understand as of now, no employee is being given annually evaluations, correct?
Trustee Lopez, which one is 304 or 305? 305.
Yeah, 305.
Yes,
Okay, again, as of today, no employee is being receiving a yearly evaluation, right?
no,
The only ones that receive evaluation is the police department.
Okay,
the PD does, and then the other departments are based on only if there is something negative.
so from now on, once this book is approved, every single employee of the village will get an evaluation once a year, correct?
By this book, yes,
And the process to do so, it will be done by the department head. Once an employee gets an evaluation, do I have to sign up or sign off on that evaluation if I agree with it?
I don't believe so.
Do you guys do that now?
Our guys sign off.
They sign off.
It's usually a signing off that you receive.
Big,
the
yeah.
signing.
No, it's signing off.
Yeah, you sign up, you see it, no, no,
No,
that, you're not doing.
No, just saying.
The way the county does it, and I get an evaluation about once a year. At the end of October, my sergeant, my lieutenant, he get an email from the commissioner's office. And I can go to the office, they give me whatever evaluation they want to give me, if I'm okay with it, I sign off on that, boom, that gets put on my file. So if an employee is not to sign on an evaluation, and down the road, an employee comes and say, well, I didn't agree with it at the time. How are we gonna keep records to make sure that the employee gets a fair evaluation?
Says here, the very last one, employee reply, the employee can put a reply to the performance evaluation. Evaluation. So if I give Joe a C on a scale of A, B, C, D, E, F. And all he's signing off on is that I did it, he saw it. He can give a reply saying, well, I don't agree with this deficiency or that deficiency or da, 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 da. Then that can go in the file.
But then I'm mandated to sign off on that particular evaluation for the year.
They're signing off, my understanding is, the way this process is, they're only signing off that it was performed and that appraisal exists. He's not agreeing to it, he's not disagreeing. If he disagrees, he does the employee reply.
Do you have that?
yeah, our guys would sign off that they receive.
No, but do you have a reply if they disagree with the evaluation?
No, I don't believe so. Do you remember, Danny?
I think there's a box
There's something.
that we could fill out if we disagree with it. And work the provider.
Kind of like appealing it or questioning it.
But, yeah,
So, if I may, what we did in Yonkers for the employee evaluations is we had it's a two system. You evaluated yourself, your supervisor evaluated you. Once those were done, you would sit down with the employee and you would have a conference with them and you would see where you guys matched or where you really didn't match. And if it was very obvious that there was a big you would talk and figure out the reason being. At that point in time, the supervisor could, if they chose to, change it until it's locked forever. So there was always the opportunity during a conference to have that conversation you're talking about.
But again. at
That's
the
the
end-
way we did it there.
Yeah, I understand that, but at the end, I'd like to have something stated that the employee agrees or disagrees with that evaluation. And we have some kind of
I don't think that's legal.
paper trail
I don't think that's legal. I'll ask.
saying, you evaluated, you give me 6, just to give you. I don't agree with it, I'm not gonna sign up on the report. So what's gonna happen? If I don't agree with your evaluation of my job performance.
Or you can sign stating that you don't agree with it.
Yeah, but that's not gonna do any good.
What do you,
The employer one.
because I think what we're trying to avoid in terms of the employee signing off on the document is making sure that there's nothing in their personnel file that they're not aware of. Right, so the signing of that document is stating that you're aware that this evaluation is being placed in the personnel file, not necessarily I agree with the sentiments that exist within that evaluation. The employee reply is what allows for them to rebut any points that were made in that evaluation, which would also then go in that personnel file. So when I open that up, I'm gonna see the evaluation, but I'm also gonna see the response. Any signature on there is just the signature of that individual saying, yeah, I know it's there. It's basically how I'm looking at it.
But is there a mechanism in place to contest the evaluation?
Yes, the employee reply.
That's
So the employee replies when I say I don't agree, and then what?
Yeah, well, picking up both of your conversation, and what a third problem is, which I know doesn't happen here, but what happens if you get the boss evaluating somebody who just doesn't like person because he's bad review all the time?
No, it happens all the time.
Well, yeah, and how do you stop that?
But see now that.
So we have to stop both your
Right.
conversation comes in.
But what you just brought up is why I written this down is part of what I think is important with this performance appraisal is what is the evaluative tool that we're using? Right, so are we developing what the evaluative tool is? Is Mike developing the evaluative tool? When we're looking at it, we have to be able to see how are individuals being assessed? How is their performance being assessed? What does that look like? Because it can't be arbitrary. And the point of these performance appraisals in reality is that there should be goals, there should be expectations that when you're taking that evaluative tool and utilizing it annually, you're able to look back and look at metrics to be able to say, did this individual do X, Y, and Z that was part of their job? Did they meet X, Y, and Z goals? It can't be, I don't like you, therefore you're getting an ineffective across the board. What are the metrics that are being used to actually gauge their performance? So I think part of this section has to include a conversation about what that evaluative tool is.
What's the tool?
Ours has a comment section after each
No,
section.
no, I mean, yeah, so there's a template.
Yep,
In other words, how many, I'll make this up, okay, how many tickets, how many arrests, how many days you it's supposed to go off, how many.
yeah, we have attendance, we have,
So you have a sheet with.
yeah, they're
questions.
proactive, inactive, yeah.
So
And every, yeah.
When we're evaluating somebody for promotion.
Yes,
That's, yeah,
yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, coming from the private sector, the tool is necessary because evaluating someone on performance, a great job is one thing versus where I came from, you even got a need for improvement if you didn't take your vacation on time. That was like you're not managing your time. So if you're gonna just sit with a manager, a person who doesn't like you, yes, you're gonna get always a bad review, or that person is gonna be on this part of your job, you excel, on this part of your job, you need improvement. And within 90 days, you're gonna come back again and see the need of improvement. But this is the tools that we, the company, are going to provide for you to improve. We're gonna send you to a class, we're gonna send you to whatever it is that is necessary for you to have that improvement. Just saying, I don't like you, you're not doing the job, but you're not giving me the tools or the detailed information for me to follow to improve that, then you just punish me, period. And I'm gonna sit down with you in 90 days and have nothing better to do because you didn't give me nothing that I can follow to improve according to the company, not according to the personal feelings that the leader may have with that employee. And that tool applies to everybody. And the idea with that is to prevent that the person who doesn't like you give you a bad review. It's the tool that the company uses, not the tool that the employee or the leader uses. And that's important. Without tools, you could do whatever. It's different from police environment because it's rankings, it's citations of tickets and things like that. But for other employees such as me and others, you have to have some kind of improvement. And also the tools in the sense of within 90 days, this is my expectation. And then 180 days, if you have an approval, I'm sorry, you can no longer work here based on those information. That's from the private side.
I'm sorry to be a pain in the neck about this, but,
That's a good point.
and I go back. You're my supervisor, you give me an evaluation that I don't agree at all. I'm gonna check a little box, and I'm gonna sign, saying I received my evaluation. If I'm totally in disagreement with your evaluation, what is, for me as an employee, what am I? What other route can I take, to fight that?
Employee reply,
And where's the reply gonna go to?
Personnel file.
personnel file.
And that's gonna stay in my personal file.
That's what I asked before, is there a mechanism in place to process that disagreement?
Since it will be attached to the performance appraisal report.
That's it.
If you're gonna do something, you can just sit there. Then it can be just an annual thing. You're wrong,
Yep, and every
go
year,
back and forth,
Correct,
but nothing ever happens, because neither party.
correct.
So there's gotta be something else besides just that.
These guys are gonna way out for employees to fight that evaluation.
But when we,
Kind of mediation.
so I think the part that I'm getting confused on is the fight part. So is it, there has to be a mechanism by which the employee can get a different evaluation? Or get a better evaluation? Like, I'm trying to figure out what is, the employee receives a negative evaluation, an evaluation they don't like. Are we trying to determine what is their recourse, like how do they get a better one?
not necessarily because of, that would be up to the supervisor to give some kind of training or whatever is needed. But if this happens year after year after year, and the same evaluation, which I don't agree with, why do I have to settle for that? Why can't I just contest that? Why can't I just fight that evaluation? By me putting a little note that going into my file, that's not gonna do me any good. Whoever wants to go to my file, they're gonna see that year after year, receive that evaluation.
They will, but they'll also see your response.
Was it disagreement over?
Well, basically what it is our sergeants do the evaluations. Then me and the chief sit down and we go over we look at their things. So any comments, anything like that. If we have a problem with that person, we'll bring them in. Like if I know Officer A doesn't write tickets and the supervisor put low self-initiative, or something like that. And the officer feels that he did a lot of initiative stuff. That officer will come in and talk to us and then we straighten that out.
And I
That's
think-
how we do it. Again, the sergeants are doing the evaluations and then we evaluate the sergeants and the officers because there's a spot on there for comments and stuff like that.
So when the officer comes in and he kind of explains to you what he did, and you agree with him, do you change the evaluation?
We'll call the sergeant in and speak to them and see why, I'm gonna knock on wood, we haven't had to have that, usually the sergeants are very good with their evaluations.
Yeah.
And the officers accept criticism or whatever, even if they don't feel it, it'll be noted or whatever. But the supervisor is usually pretty correct on there, but to avoid that favoritism or whatever. Now you have not only the supervisor, you have me or the chief. And we're small enough that we can do it, like I know what each one of my officers do, so I kind of know if Danny Jordan didn't write tickets for the whole year or something like that, then all of a sudden he feels that you should have got higher in the rating. He's gonna come in and we're gonna say, Danny, look, here's your activity sheets for the year. So the sergeant was dead on.
And I think, I see your point, though, because realistically, if you have the negative evaluation sitting in your personnel file. And you're attempting to move up or move on, this personnel file is going to show you as a poor employee. I think there's two different ways that can be fixed, because if it was an arbitrary evaluation. And you're able to verifiably prove that they are false. In your response, you're gonna go bullet by bullet, point by point, going through why each one of those things is incorrect. Secondly, if the evaluative tool that we're utilizing is an objective evaluative tool, one that is not bringing in your opinions or your thoughts or your feelings, but is actual data or metrics or taking your job responsibility and how to prove it, then that will then protect that person from having an unfair evaluation. I think the other part that we have to highlight here is any employee has a right to get a copy of everything in their personnel file at any point in time. So
every job that I've ever left, I took with me a full copy of my personnel file. And in my mind, it's one of those things you're gonna go through to make sure that everything is there that's supposed to be there. So if there's ever a point where, you know, an employee wants to contact an employer and say that this is, you know, the type of person is, you have all of that documentation yourself. So I think a combination of all of those three may be able to protect that employee from that unjust evaluation following.
And Mike, you will be in charge of reminding every single, department head to do the evaluation?
Well, first thing to point out, it says the village will attempt to. But, it's done, I mean, these guys do theirs on a very informal basis. And it's done, we probably should get a tool and start doing it differently. I have no problem with that. One of the issues we have is, you know, Brian's gonna end up doing all his guys, Joe's gonna end up doing all his guys, I'm gonna end up doing everyone up here except for Tony will do his one guy. And then everybody else really doesn't have a guy, so I'm doing all of those people, so there also, then there's not another, you know, there's no mechanism if you want to appeal, there's not gonna be anybody who's gonna know enough. But we should, like, we used to do, Mayor, I'll tell you, when I first came here, I brought with me, and it was from the national organization, an appraisal system for me. And it was done for a couple of years, and it was very easy. We should get a new system. So I'll come back to you on that. So what I can show you, here's what we're gonna use from now on. And it's gonna be easy. It's not gonna be, you know, difficult where somebody doesn't want to do it. Joe can do it in a day. Brian can do it in a day. I can do it in a day.
It shouldn't be laborious.
Right.
It shouldn't be something that's taking hours and hours.
And just so you know, the county uses software that is called Post evaluation software. Everybody uses it. So
And I
everybody's.
think they get it from this company, I think. These people. Because these people are consultants for the county too. So I'll find out what they're recommending. Good idea, thank you.
I know what came back a second.
No, go ahead. Please.
This section, I give you the section on page number, 1001. It's the organizational communications. It seems that the methods included in there just seem quite outdated. And don't necessarily seem to align with where we tend to be these days. There's a lot of reference to bulletin boards and things of that nature, when in actuality, a lot of that is simply email or so. I think that section of organizational communications may just need to be slightly updated.
Okay, modernized.
Not there it is. Not being used. But in terms of the beginning part for in essence hiring, but there's no quote unquote hiring section, right? So there's procedures for filling vacancy, probationary period. I guess what I'm looking for is some type of a going along with like the ethics, like a nepotism policy, and we like full disclosure. So that there's not a perception of impropriety, you know, when individuals are. So I don't know if this company has a template for that for us to be able to look at. Or if there's a section within the handbook that we have here that we need to modify. To address that. Believe it or not, everything else that I had. You know,
So we'll go around a little more time and then we can make these corrections and read it again. Trustee, anything? No, we do. Trustee, Martin? No, good. Trustee,
One more thing. Once the book is ready to go, every single employee is gonna be handed out a book with all the rules and regs. What is the procedure for an employee? What does an employee have to do in order to have some kind of record stating that you did get the book? A signature would be,
There's a signature sheet, which is in the back of it.
and it's no need for a notary, nothing like that. That's simple signature.
It's not necessary.
And every single employee will just sign for the book. Simple signature.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we may do it, actually may do it in two ways. We may do it hard and electronic. So electronic would be, you gotta return an email and say, yes, you got it.
Administrator?
Nothing more. I think it took more than the time.
Steve?
So the book's gonna be in Spanish?
Yes. Only for you, right?
But you have to change it.
Brian? No. Joe? Mike?
One quick thing, to your point about electronic email, just realize not everybody has village email.
I beg your pardon?
Not every employee has village email.
What's the reason for that? They don't want to give one, or they?
It's just, it's usually people who are here in the office. Or department heads.
They assign a email to them. It's don't give it to email. It's how you want to get update from now on.
Yeah, I mean, the cost associated with that on a yearly basis. But it can, but I just want to make you aware that not everybody has a village email account.
Matt, to answer your question, probably the closest thing to the hiring statement or whatever is 302 statement of compliance. That's
Yeah.
about as close as you get.
That's what I thought. And I'm like, but I thought maybe I could have been missing something and it wasn't, because that's the closest I came to.
And the way that's written is that's legalese to cover everything. That's basically what that is. So I'll ask them about explaining.
And if not, I kind of started working on a job that one way just in case there was.
I knew there was something. That's why I had to look real quick.
Now, 2 union reps. Anything yet? Oh, sir. Now, good.
Good.
All right, we'll go back and we'll put all these in here and get it out again and we'll do it again. Okay, motion to adjourn. All in favor? Thanks, Colin. Thank you.